Okay, we're live. Go ahead.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can we all say the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Barry Walton?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic from which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For all. Thank you. I'd ask everybody to maybe keep their mics off if you're not speaking. This way there's no feedback or interference. I would appreciate that. So, Robin, would you like to continue, please?
Commissioner Alton,
Present.
Commissioner Creighton, Commissioner Acevedo,
Present.
Commissioner Reckner,
Present.
Commissioner Brooks,
Present.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Present.
Chairman Morelli.
Present.
Commissioner Creighton is absent. Case number 3171, application of Mark Caruso of 2 Wesley Drive, East Rockaway, New York, and Robert Hottie of So Solid Gold Inc. of 101 George Avenue, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.16 rear yard, 9-105.16 side yard, 9-105.16H off-street parking, for change of use to a tattoo shop at 852 West Beach Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 261, Lot 1 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Motion on this application.
I make a motion to grant.
Mr. Acevedo has introduced a motion to grant the application. Who will second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Alton has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Reckner,
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks,
Wanda, you're muted. Wanda, you're muted.
Can the administrator unmute Wanda?
I can't force it. I've already asked her to unmute.
I'll just make, see if she signs that again. Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant.
Chairman Morelli.
Grant.
There's enough cases, there's enough votes to grant. I think Wanda might have got disconnected. This application has been granted.
Okay.
Case number 3172, application of Timothy Kanai and Victoria Parisi of 372 East Bay Drive, Long Beach, New York, for a variance from the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.1C front yard, 9-105.1D side yard, for a new front yard deck and side stairs at 372 East Bay Drive, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 275, Lot 23, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Who will introduce a motion on this application?
I'll make a motion to grant.
Commissioner Leonetti has introduced a motion to grant the application. Who will second?
I'm going to second the motion.
Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Reckner,
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant.
Chairman Morelli.
Grant.
This application has been granted. Rocco, before we start,
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to make an announcement that basically the cases that are being heard this evening will not be voted on, as we need to wait for a vote back from the Nassau County Planning Commission. It's required on the cases we'll be hearing this evening. So just to be clear, the votes will be made at the next meeting or after we receive word from the Nassau County Planning Board. Thank you.
case number 3173, application of Donna Papalardo and Jeff Paragallo of 48 Alabama Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard, for a new second-story deck at 48 Alabama Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 259, Lot 4 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
The applicant's present, ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, please give us your name and address for the record.
Jeff Paragallo, 48 Alabama Street, Long Beach, New York.
Okay, Mr. Pergallo. So, a couple of questions. I understand why you're here for a variance. What's the lot size of your home?
30 by 60.
30 by 60.
30 by 60, okay. Is it a new construction or is it a lifted home?
No, it's not a lifted home.
And it's
Okay,
not
so-
new construction.
Okay. I'm assuming that's Ms. Papalardo on the,
Yes.
yeah. If, just give us your name and address for the record, so when you
Sure.
get to speak, the transcriber can see who it is that's speaking. Just give us your
Donna-
name and address.
Donna Papalardo,
Okay.
Alabama.
All right, thank you very much. All right, folks, so the house is a new construction. Basically, what you're looking to do is you're looking to put on a second floor deck. And with the second floor deck, basically, you are coming now, how far from the property line?
The new deck, we're asking it to be, the new second floor deck, we're asking to be 1 foot from the property line at the front of the house.
Okay, so now this is a second story deck. So now, does this deck have any footings that go down to the cement itself?
Yeah.
Or is it built off the second,
No,
the first story?
it'll land on the ground level.
Okay, how far are those footings from the property line?
They would be 3 feet.
Okay.
Or- yeah.
So this is pretty much the standard of decks that have been approved with lifts. This is a little different because it's a new construction. How wide is the deck itself? Do you know?
It would be the width of the house, the front of the house, which is 16 feet.
Right, no, but I mean, how far does it protrude?
Oh, 8 feet, 8 inches.
All right, fine. So that's within what we have been approving. I don't have any further questions. Do any members of the board have any questions?
I don't have
No.
a question, but I'm looking at the picture and it looks like, where's the deck? The house looks like it should have a deck.
Okay.
It looks like it should have a deck. Is that what you said?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. It's missing it today.
It's missing a deck, a case of the missing deck. So, okay, with that in mind, anybody else? Anybody want to speak for or against in the audience?
No hand raised.
All right, so this case will remain open for voting until next month, okay? Thank you, folks.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next case.
Case number 3174, application of Michael Cunha of 253 C Roslyn Road, Roslyn Heights, New York, and Antonio Cunha of 8 Alpine Drive, Syosset, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York: 9-105.2 K use, 9-105.2 C front yard, to convert a one-family into a two-family at 161 West Hudson Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 67, Lot 49, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Okay, the applicants are present?
Yep.
The applicant is present?
Yes, hold on. I'm
Okay.
just moving them up. Michael, make sure you unmute your phone.
Okay, there we go. All right, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Is
give
there
us your name and address, Michael.
Michael
Michael?
Cunha. It's 1 Benjamin Street, Bayshore, New York, 11706.
Okay, so tell us why you're here. Just describe briefly the project first.
The project is to take the existing one-family dwelling and raise it above the floodplain and to add a second family to the house.
All right, so what's the lot size?
40 by 100.
Okay, and basically at this point, you'd be raising the house. Was the house damaged with Sandy, or you're just taking a house that's been restored already and now you're rebuilding?
No, half restored.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the house was damaged in Sandy, so, we want to do, add more than 50%, to the house. We would bring it
So
up.
basically, you're raising the house, you raised the house, and now, how is the construction and conversion of this two-family going to take place as opposed to what's there now?
Well, nothing has been done yet, but we would
Okay.
raise and build a foundation, brand new foundation, and then add another level below it.
Okay, so the house that you have still existing is structurally sound, in other words,
Yes,
right?
it's in good shape. It's structurally sound.
Okay, so now at this point, are you living in the house? Will you be living in the house? Because I know your address is different. It's Bay Shore.
My father would be living in the house and is looking to bring his daughter-in-law from Texas to also live in that house, I guess, above them.
Okay, now, since the variance runs with the land, as you know, is the reason that this is going to be done for any sort of financial hardship, any kind of hardship involved in this case?
Yeah, so his daughter-in-law has a son. He's a special needs. So his wife would be able to help out with that, assisting getting on the bus, off the bus, babysitting.
Mhm.
That's why they want to be in one house.
Okay,
But she does have a family, so they want two separate spaces.
okay, just a question. Would there be any kind of merit for them having asked for a temporary conditional variance so that they could have and enjoy this house while their present, situation exists? And when the house was sold, maybe ultimately down the road, it'd be sold as a one family. Because it sounds like, the use for this is, the test for the use is basically, a little more involved in an area. So, uh, would something like that suit the purpose, or your firm on wanting a variance to convert to a two-family house?
Yeah, I mean,
Because
it
remember,
would
that's in
be,
perpetuity.
yeah, it's something in perpetuity. That's what they were looking for.
All right.
Just because it would be until the son gets old enough, and then they can, once he's of age, they may want to move someplace else. Also, they're aging, and they might want to get into a house that's a one level eventually. So,
But my question is that if that's being the case, I mean, would it make sense to also have a temporary conditional variance that you could use for the situation at hand? And then when the house, as you mentioned, might be sold, the house reverts back to a one family, or is that going to involve
I
too
think
much?
yeah, because right now we have it as two separate spaces. That's where we're
All right, I
proposing.
understand.
And
Okay.
we'd have to, reconfigure the entire house.
I understand. All right, I understand. Any members of the board have any questions? Anybody in the audience want to speak for or against? No one.
Rocco, it wouldn't
yeah.
just be when they go to sell the house, if the conditions change, if one family, or if the relative moves out or
Oh,
something.
yeah.
that's one of the conditions.
Clearly. But it sounds like,
But it looks from the plans, if I may interrupt, sorry, that it really is being configured with two front doors. It's being set up like a permanent two-family home. So I would see this as being a very hard project to unwind at the point.
well, yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
No, I get it. I was just asking those questions, for the purposes of
The record.
basically, well, for the purposes of having a complete record. So basically, at this point, there are no other questions from the members of the board, and I understand there are no questions or comments from any members of the audience. Am I correct?
Okay.
All right, this case is going to remain open until voting at the next meeting or when we hear from the Nassau County Board. All right, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Case number 3175, application of John Bonds of 93 California Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard for a new FEMA compliant house at 93 California Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 242, lot 33 on the Nassau County Land Tax Map.
All right, is Mr. Barnes here?
Yes, I am. How are you?
All right, Mr. Barnes, give us your name and address for the record, please.
John Barnes, 93 California Street in Long Beach.
All right. How are you tonight, Mr. Barnes?
Hanging in there. How you doing?
Good. All right, so on this lot, what is the lot size?
30 by 60.
Okay, so was there a house existing that you took down already, or is there something still on the property?
No, if you see my background, you'll see this is my actual house. It was the house
Okay.
I was brought home from the hospital to. Parents lived in Long Beach, met in Long Beach, and yeah, just trying to make a house that could live through things like Hurricane Irene and Hurricane Sandy.
I understand. So basically, tell us a little bit about the house. Now, it looks like the only thing that you're coming for tonight is for the construction of basically the front yard. I'm assuming that the front yard with the open porch is just due to the fact that you're going to be raising up the house and the porch is going to be coming to within 1 foot of the property line, and the footings are going to be 3 feet from the property line, as we've seen on a regular basis. Am I correct?
Unfortunately, no. The house was in such disrepair, and we were not able to lift it. So it's a new construction. So
No, I understand. Okay. But the deck and its location is similar to what the board has heard numerous times in terms of the board has heard cases where the deck is building coming out to 1 foot of the property line. The footings are 2 feet in from that 1 foot from the property line deck, which means the footings are 3 feet from the property line. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And in construction of this new house, you're not asking for any other variances, am I correct?
No, and I'm actually not trying to build like I'm building a 1,650 square foot home.
All right. You know what? I have to commend you for that, honestly, because it's kind of refreshing when we hear cases of something that's a new construction and somebody's trying to build within the code, I understand that your situation with the deck is very similar to what a lot of people come before this board with, but I'm happy to say that you're not here to ask for any kind of variances where you're, intruding upon your neighbors or you're building something that is large. So thank you for that. Do any members of the board have any questions?
No.
Anybody in the audience have any questions? Okay, so Mr. Barnes, this case has to remain open though until voting at the next meeting because of our having to wait for the Nassau County Planning Commission, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, happy Thanksgiving.
You too, guys. Thank you very much.
All right, next case.
Number 3176, application of Jana Johnson of 117 West Penn Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.c front yard for a new front yard deck at 117 West Penn Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 74, lot 170 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Okay, good evening. Is Ms. Johnson there?
Hold on. Let me see.
Mr. Frazier, is Ms. Johnson available or?
He's coming on.
Okay.
You have to unmute yourself.
Give them a second. It looks like they're connecting their audio.
Showing she's muted again.
Hello?
There she goes.
Hi, good evening. Okay,
Hi.
so you're Ms. Johnson, right?
Yes.
Great. All right, nice to meet you. Give us your name and address, please.
Sure. Gina Johnston, 117 West Penn Street in Long Beach.
All right.
11561.
So we're here tonight to hear the case of your variance. And basically, as you know, you're required to have 20 feet in your front yard, and you're here to propose a 9-foot front yard. So tell us why that is.
Yeah, so we just recently moved into this home and we did a large renovation of the upstairs kitchen and living room, dining room area. And we want to be able to utilize some outdoor space for outdoor dining and for sort of appreciating the neighborhood. We have 2 young kids and, trying to make the best use of our space.
All right, so basically, looking at the design, you would be coming out from the front of the house, right? Approximately how many feet, for the record, would you say the deck is going to protrude?
Yeah, so it'll be 11 feet on the side, on our sort of kitchen side, and it'll be, I think, a little closer to 12 feet on the living room side.
Okay, my question is there any kind of staircase from your deck coming down to the first, to the ground level?
No.
Okay, so you have the front deck that goes across the width of the house. It's protruding out about 11 feet, and that's going to give you 9 feet left till you get to the street. Now, let me ask you, how did you arrive at 11 feet in terms of a deck size? Was that just an arbitrary number, or?
No, we wanted to be able to put a nice size dining table so that we could, eat outside with our family. And so when we looked at sort of the clearance we would need for chairs on either side and, also have a seating area on the other side, we felt that sort of the 11 feet out from the dining room would leave us
Yeah.
the space we needed.
Okay, all right. The reason I'm asking is because we usually see somewhere around 10. And that's why I was wondering, just where the number came from, but I guess it was your own calculation that determined your size, right? Your need to have 11. Now, it looks like, this house has been around for a while. Have you made any other outside changes to the dimensions of the house in any way?
No.
All right, I don't have any other questions. Do any members of the board have any questions?
No?
All right, Robin, is there anyone from the audience that wants to log in? Any comment?
Thompson, is your architect, did your architect want to speak? I don't see them signed in at all.
No, so I worked with James Joyce in Long Beach here, and we had spoken. So I have sort of whatever he had mentioned here.
Okay. All right.
All right.
No, there's no hands raised.
All right, very good. So, Ms. Johnson, I don't know if you heard us from before, but tonight's cases we won't be voting on because we have to hear back from the Nassau County Planning Commission. We haven't heard back from them yet on any of these. So we're required to hear from them before we can vote. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to hold off your case vote until next meeting, okay?
Got it. Will I get an invite for the next meeting?
You don't have to. You'll just get the vote, and you can call City Hall, or you'll know the next day, basically.
Okay.
Find out. All right, you don't have to.
You're invited to the meeting already. It's an open meeting.
Yeah, it's an open meeting. You can just log in. Okay.
Got it. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving. Take care.
Thanks to you as well.
All right. Thank you. Next case.
Case number 3177, application of Charles Raffaele of 34 Shore Park Drive, Great Neck, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.2J subdivision, 9-105.2K expanding use, 9-105.2D side yard, 9-113.2G off-street parking design standards, for the subdivision of the existing 100 by 100 plot of land into two separate building lots, the conversion of a two-family dwelling into a one-family dwelling, and constructing a new two-family dwelling at 355 East Beach Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 142, lots 64 through 68 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Okay. Good evening. Are the applicants here, or Mr. Cohen is going to speak?
Mr. Cohen is here.
Okay.
Scott, you have to unmute yourself.
Most people like it when I'm muted.
Okay, Scott.
Good
All right. I
evening.
see Mr. Myeri in the background as well. Good
Yes.
evening. All right. So, Scott, just give us your name and address, for the record.
Scott Cohen of Council, Kenneth L. Apple, 30 West Park Avenue, Suite 202, Long Beach, New York. Representing Charles Raffaele LLC, the owner of 355 East Beach.
Okay, so let me ask you then, Scott. So we'll I read the letter that you guys sent to us. So my understanding from looking at this app is that you have a 100-foot by 100-foot wide lot. There is an existing two-family home on it.
Correct.
You want to subdivide the lot by getting rid of a garage that exists on the what would be 44 lot. Am I correct?
Well, before you go any further, I'd like to amend our application to get rid of the side yard variance request. So instead of subdividing to a 56 by 100 and a 44 by 100, I'd like to amend the drawing to be a 60 by 100 and a 40 by 100. That way, no side yard variances are needed.
Okay.
So then the existing, the 60 by 100 lot will have side yard setbacks of 6 feet on the west and 9 feet on the east. and the proposed 40 by 100 lot will have the traditional 5 and 8. So
Okay.
therefore, we won't need a side yard setback. As
Okay.
to your point about taking the garage down for the subdivision,
Hmm.
it's a very interesting and very good question, because the building code at 9-105.2J provides that in the event of an existing building or structure prevents the subdivision of a plot of ground on which it stands into 2 or more legal building plots, neither such existing building or structure nor any part thereof may be demolished or destroyed to accomplish that subdivision of said plot of land into 2 or more building plots.
So can you leave that
Here-
garage?
Here, that the way that statute ordinance is written, if we don't need to take the garage down to subdivide the lot. The garage does not straddle the proposed lot lines.
Okay,
If the existing house straddled the line and we were looking to take that down, then we would be in violation of that section. Here, the building department's determination that the demolition of the garage prevents the subdivision was incorrect. I mean, we're proposing to ultimately demolish the garage, but we don't need to demolish the garage to create the subdivision.
all right, so what you're
Garage sits
saying,
in the immediate northeast corner. So it's 15 and a half feet east of the
can we
new
have,
lot line.
can I have council weigh in on this? Mr. Barrios? I don't think he's on right now.
Scott, so
Oh,
Hey,
is
Rick.
that true about the way the code reads, Rich? That basically, since they changed it to a 60-40 with correct side yard setbacks, and the garage would be residing on the 40, that there is no house or structure straddling any property line that would necessitate taking down. The taking down of the garage by itself, because it's sitting on a separate lot, basically the code doesn't apply to that, as Mr. Cohen says.
Scott, it seems like you're just making a point, but the idea is you're still requesting the subdivision, right?
I'm still requesting the subdivision, but the fact
And
that
you are
we're-
gonna take the garage down, but you're saying that what the building department's denial letter said was inaccurate or improper? Is that-
well, I'm saying that the building department's application of the code to this situation doesn't apply, because the code section specifically says if there is an existing building or structure that prevents the subdivision of plot of ground. This garage, if you look at the survey, it sits to the far northeast corner. I can show, I don't know how it'll come up, but if you look, here is the garage,
Yeah,
and the new proposed plot line is here. So in no way does this garage prevent the subdivision. It has no effect on the subdivision at all. And in fact, the existing garage is in violation of the side yard and the rear yard setbacks. So it doesn't comply with the code as it stands. And as the way this section is written, the demolition of that garage is not needed to create the subdivision. If the house was 10 feet east and we needed to trim off a section of the house, then this section, 9-105.2J would come into effect. If the garage was 16 feet west, then this section would come into play, because the garage impedes the garage would impede the subdivision. Here, the garage has no effect on the subdivision. If we could demolish it for any reason, but it does not affect the subdivision as this section is written.
okay.
And
I
what read
understand
was
your point.
correctly verbatim.
Take it under advisement, Scott. I mean, I think the general gist of it, it sounds like it'd be really weird if you just left it there anyway, but I understand your point. I'll look.
Well,
into
he's
it.
saying, Rich, is he's saying that, even by leaving it there, it would be basically continuing a non-conforming use of that garage, because the garage doesn't have the proper setbacks. Although I have to tell you, I don't think I've seen any garage in Long Beach on an older home that's not sitting up against the back property line. I mean, I
Right.
would say probably 80% of the garages in Long Beach that are in older homes are, pre-existing non-conforming because everybody's garage is right up against their backyard property line.
Right, but that was just an ancillary point. The
All right.
actual point is
That's what I
that
heard.
it does not affect
Okay,
subdivision at all.
all right, so
Which
let's,
is why you're making your request to amend your requested variance, right? You're
Well-
amending it for that purpose.
No, even if we kept it at 56 and 44, that would put more space.
Yeah, it
between
would,
the
yeah.
Proposed line and the garage. Well, the reason I made that amendment was to remove the side yard variance.
yeah, that removes
from-
item D, correct?
Right, so now we
All
have to deal with that.
All right, so let's deal with the other, let's go and deal with the other issues then.
So now
So,
let's talk
Let's
about,
deal with the expanding usage.
okay,
So now basically, the one is a one-family house as a two-family house as is, am I correct?
correct. It is an existing two-family home.
Okay, so basically you are going to convert that into a one-family home. Tell us what the other two-family home is going to look like. And I'm assuming that there will be no need for variances now on that two-family home,
Okay.
other
There-
than the parking standards, am I correct?
Well, I don't even think the parking standards will fall into play. But the proposed new two-family home will not require any variances. It will be built within the code, will not need any side yard. It won't need a front yard variance. It won't need a rear yard variance, and it'll be constructed within the height requirements. So we will not be coming before you for a variance with respect to that new proposed two-family home.
And what about decks, Scott?
All of
Like
that-
the fabrication of the decks?
There is we provided a drawing, and the drawing does not call for any decks.
Okay,
And if there were decks, they would be within the footprint of the structure.
okay. I understand. So I don't have any questions right now at the moment. Any members of the board have any questions?
Scott, could you go back to, I'm looking at the plot plan that shows a 56 by 100 and a 44 by 100. And the proposed subdivision has a 5 and 8 on either side. And the remaining house has a 5 and a 10, is that right?
No. Well, first, I've amended, I offered an amendment to change that subdivision from a 56 by 100 and a 44 by 100 to a 60 by 100 and a 40 by 100. So that would allow us to to have proper side yard setbacks.
Well,
within the code.
you'd have to shrink the size of the new house in order to retain those side yards, wouldn't you?
No, the new house would still be able to have the same dimensions. The only thing we did was when we made the application for a 56 and a 44, the existing house would have needed a side yard setback because that line they would have a 6-foot setback on the west side and a 5-yard setback on the east side. Now we
Right.
have a 6.
I understand. So now you're going to have a 40 by 100, okay? And if you're going to have a 5 foot and an 8 foot, the house has to be narrower than this original plan.
The dimensions of the house are 60 deep by 27 wide. So it possibly is a bit narrower, but it would be 60 by 27.
They also show decks on the front, it looks like in the drawing.
Okay.
I think those are pavers that are shown there.
If you're talking about the southeast corner, that's the driveway. They kind of looks like,
Rendering of the building itself, and the front looks like it has decks that come off of it. But-
okay. This over here, what you're referring to, that is the driveway.
I was not referring to that.
Then let
I was
me,
referring to this.
excuse me, that's my daughter. Let me hang up on her. If the house is ultimately going to be constructed with decks, they will be within the footprint, and we would not be coming for a front yard setback.
Does that answer the questions about that and the side yards? I mean,
No.
okay,
If you have a 5 and an 8, you're going to have a 40-foot lot, right?
Yes.
5 and an 8, that's going to leave you 27 feet for the house.
Yes.
It looks like the house is 31 feet and you're,
Okay, that's the original. I will provide the amended drawing that shows it as a 60 by 27 structure. So
Okay.
therefore we won't need, the drawing you have is
Right.
on the larger lot.
right, so that's what I'm saying.
Right.
The house that you're showing us is wider than what you're proposing. So the whole house is going to have to shrink down in order to maintain those side yards.
Yes, and I have not a rendering, but a plot plan, which I will drop off with Robin tomorrow.
Of the new house. So you're
Of the-
changing the dimension, the footprint of the new house is what you're saying. Is that
Yes,
correct?
here,
It's going to be skinnier?
Yes,
gonna be
in
this
order to
one-
maintain those side yards, it has to be skinnier.
yes, it will be, instead of roughly 30, it's 8 and 5 is 4 is 13. So instead of 31, it will be 27.
Correct. So Scott, what other reasons for subdividing? What are the, why are we going this route?
Well, the subdivision into a 40 by 100 lot is not uncommon. Actually, I went through the entire tax block of this section of Long Beach, and let me just get to that section of my presentation. Okay, that tax block in Long Beach contains 29 homes. Section 59, block 142 has 29 homes. In that section, 20 of those homes are two-family. So 69% of the homes in that tax block are two-family homes. Of the 29 homes,
We know it's not uncommon. We know it's not out of character, but subdivisions are hard to get. More reasons.
and at some point in time, these two properties were separate because Nassau County and Long Beach School District taxed them separately. They're taxed as a 40 by 100 and a 60 by 100. Only the city tax has them as connected as one lot, 100 by 100.
that's not unusual, Scott. I mean, we've
Yeah.
seen this numerous times over the years, and where the county, chooses to set these lots up, a lot of times isn't really the way they even exist. And so we know that sometimes it would appear to me that the way the Nassau County Tax Department has it set up is not as accurate as the way the city has it set up. So we've seen numerous times over the years where Nassau County had these lots listed as two separate lots. My own home is listed as two separate lots. And my home is on a 40 by 120. So, I mean, I don't know how my house could have even been existing on two separate lots because there's no time that I ever remember being the 20-foot lots in East End. So we can't really go by that. My point is that the city records and the tax records, I think, are more accurate.
Okay.
Was there any decision to make it, if you're adding an extra house, making it to a one family, like, because you are increasing density by going ultimately from two family residents to now 3?
Yeah.
it will increase by one family in that area. And the purpose of not, of keeping, of making the two family into a one family in that accessory apartment, it's not a large house. It appears large because it's tall and it's on some elevated ground and it's set back, but it is small. The main living area is 3 bedrooms. The accessory apartment is below grade, partially below grade, partially above grade. And it has low ceilings. I believe they're about 7.5 feet. And it is a small 1 bedroom. So the idea was to, and that house is in dire need of some tender loving care. And my client wants to keep that house because it is a majestic looking home. And he's in the process of renovating it. And the accessory apartment that is below grade is prone to flooding and has been prone to some moisture damage. And again, the ceilings are lower. So what we're looking to do is to keep that as a 1 family and construct a new 2 family. So there would be an increase of 1 family, but that's not something that is
And it wouldn't make any fiscal sense, Scott, to just construct another 1 family and renovate this.
It could make fiscal sense to do that. But again, you're going to have this accessory apartment that is somewhat below grade.
Yeah, but that accessory apartment is basic. This house is built as a 1 family home. It is majestic. It is not small. It's one of those houses that might be 3 bedrooms, but the rooms are large. And it has a center hall colonial feel. It's one of those homes. And that basement back, and it was probably converted into a 2 family back when Long Beach were allowing people with basements with bathrooms to call them separate apartments. That was years ago. It was a period in Long Beach. It's a 7'6" ceiling, granted, but that's an apartment down there that would really be useful for a single person versus a whole family. And that's the difference.
And this new one will have 6 bedrooms. It's proposed as a 3 over a 3, which is increasing a lot of density.
It is.
It is increasing the density. It's putting another family there. And if the concern is parking, there will be more spots available on the street because we'll be taking away, under the new building that we're proposing, the garage will be set back to the middle of the house, and there'll be 2 spots there. And then under the house, still past the front yard setback, there are 2 more spots, and we're proposing a spot that wraps around the side. So potentially there are 5 parking spots on the new 2 family home. And those spots, that 2 in the garage and 2 in front, they're not tandem because they're basically parking in front of the garage as if somebody else would park in front of their garage. The proposed single family home will retain the driveway and the curb cut that it currently has. That driveway is about 2.5 to 3 feet short of a car would hang off the driveway into the front yard, right abutting the house. There's already a curb cut immediately to the east. So we're just looking to widen that curb cut a little. It's not going to take away a parking spot. And as we're proposing, you're still going to be able to maintain 4 on-street parking spots in front of this property where you can still maintain 4. You have 4 spots there now, and we're potentially having 4, 5, 6 off-street spots. And as to the density issue, yeah, you are adding another family, but this area has 2 family dwellings. It is not out of character.
But it is adding density. Okay.
It is adding one family.
Yeah, it's adding density.
I'm not going to dance around it because that's a fact.
Yeah, of course.
changing the character too.
Other than ripping out the kitchen in the basement apartment, is that, what other changes are going to be done?
Well, that space will predominantly be non-habitable space. There is a laundry room down there that'll stay. The heating plant is down there, that will stay. And the empty space will not be a bedroom. It will not be a den. It's just not. It's not going to be habitable space.
Okay.
Predominantly storage. I mean, they're in the around the block from this house, and the board is well familiar with case 2772, 353 East Walnut. Yeah, that house was destroyed. The existing house was destroyed by a fire, and the board permitted a subdivision into a 2 and a 1, which is pretty much what we're looking to do. We have the existing 2. That house at 353 East Walnut was an existing 2-family. The applicant there, built a 2-family on half of the lot and committed to building a 1-family on the other lot, but ultimately came back to seek a 2-family there. That's not what we're looking to do.
Scott, are any of the principals planning on living here, or is it strictly an investment situation?
This is strictly an investment. Mr. Maeri is the principal. He owns a number of properties in Long Beach. He's built a number of projects in Long Beach. I'm sure the board is well familiar with his work and his reputation.
Go on, finish. I still see it as a density increase, because this is one of those basement apartments. It's an efficiency. It'll have a single person. You convert that into a part of a 2-family dwelling, which is 3 bedrooms. You could be going from, 1 additional car into 3 additional cars, depending on how the tenants shake out. So that's something that I'm weighing into the way I see this. These basement apartments were often even just kept in the family in most cases. So that's my thought.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any other members of the board that have any other questions? I think at this time, I'm going to open it up to the audience. I understand this council representing one side. I'd like to hear people who are in favor of the application, if they'd like to speak first. Robin, do you have anyone that's got a hand raised about that?
There are a few hand raised, but they all appear to be in opposition.
Okay.
But there is one person, Michael Flynn, unless he is in opposition, or if he's in favor, if he's in favor, I'll elevate him. Everyone else is in opposition.
All right, Mr. Flynn, we'll hear from him.
I will acknowledge.
Mr. Flynn, I need your address and your name.
Wait, but Rocco, just find out if he's in favor or against.
Yeah, Mr. Flynn, in favor of against?
Against.
All right, we'll hear from you in a little while.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else?
Yep.
All right, let's hear from the people that are against then at this point. Let's move on to that. Who's got their hand raised first? Is that Sam Pinto?
Darren was up there first. He's
All right. Okay, Mr. Salatov.
Good evening, Council, Zoning Board and Commissioner, and members of the Zoning Board. My name is Darren Solotov. I am the principal owner of Elovich and Adele, and I submit this application in opposition to the application that's being sought or heard in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals here tonight. And I want to address, before I go into some of the reasons why this application should be denied, some of the points that were just raised by Scott in support of the application in front of this board tonight. Number one is that if there is a proposal that is being sought here that is being amended, that we are not in receipt of those amended plans, and that those amended plans should be submitted, and then this matter should be continued so that we may address whatever new plans are submitted at a subsequent hearing. To the extent that they're not done now, there is some discussion or talks about the change in setbacks and the property footprint, et cetera, that's happening here. And those figures and those renderings are essential in order to really address the issues that are at play in this application. But most notably, I want to talk first about what Scott raised in terms of this garage structure and how by strict construction of interpretation of section 9105.2J, the removal of it does not violate that statute. Now, if the removal of that does not violate that statute, then it would stand that that garage should stay in place and the homes should then be built without the required or necessity. I can't hear with the dogs, without the necessity to.
Okay, Robert, everyone needs to unmute or mute themselves if you're not speaking, please.
Thank you.
Denise.
Thank you. So the idea is that that garage is necessary to remove here so that they can construct 2 homes on this subdivision. It is a requisite or necessary piece of the subdivision because it's required, its removal is required for purposes of the 2 build outs. If it is not required to remove that garage, then it should remain on the property. Otherwise, its removal is in violation of that statute 9105.2J. That being said, if we are to interpret 9105.2J strictly, as Mr. Cohen has suggested before this board here this evening, then I would suggest this board strictly construe 9105.2K, and I would suggest Mr. Cohen and the applicant do so as well. And in 9105.2K, what's happening here is that there is a subdivision that's being requested. As such, you are creating a new parcel of land, a new plot of land. And on that new plot of land, you are then requesting a new C of O be granted for a 2-family home on a new plot of land post January 1st, 2000, in strict violation of that ordinance or code. So I don't think you can have it one way and say one code or ordinance should be strictly construed and therefore it doesn't apply. And then in the other instance, it shouldn't be strictly construed. We should be loose in the interpretation of that construction or in that interpretation of that ordinance. Now, Mr. Cohen cited an example of an instance where there has been a 343 East Walnut, I believe, a granting by this board of a 2-family C of O on a subsequent lot, on a subdivided lot of land. And that case is distinguishable from this case because for main reason, that house, as Scott had indicated, as council indicated, was burned down. It's also different than another application where a house was in extreme disrepair and condemned prior to the subdivision in granting of a C of O on a subsequent lot. That is not the case here. I submit to this board that representations have been made that this is almost rather a majestic home, a landmark in Long Beach. It's been here for a long period of time. It is in good shape. It is in good condition. And as Commissioner Alton put it, it was built with a small, what actually is a studio apartment that's connected a long time ago and is a 2-family home and should remain a 2-family home. Now, if of course the builder wanted to rebuild that as a 2-family home, if the builder did so within the confines of the law and the zoning code, it would be difficult to disapprove that, but that is not what is happening here. Here, the applicant is seeking to remove the garage in violation of 9105.2J, but then subdivide the property and request that this board grant a new C of O for a 2-family home on a new plot of land. And yes, as many of the board have indicated tonight, not only will that increase the density, I think it's rather disingenuous to say that it's only going to increase the density by 2 families and 1 additional family. No, what it's going to do, it's going to green light other homes in this area to do the same thing. And it's going to create a de facto zoning law or de facto zoning code that's going to eviscerate 9105.2K and 9105.2J. And what you're going to hear tonight from other members in objection, that this is in the East Home District. And in the East Home portion of Long Beach, there are members that have lived there for a long time. There are members who have just moved there who will testify tonight about the nature and character of that neighborhood, being a neighborhood where they have grass, being a neighborhood where they have space, being a neighborhood where a recent homeowner just purchased in that neighborhood because of that. Now, there has been an aberration and a distinction where a home burnt down and one was built, but should we do that twice? Should we permit this again? We will essentially create impermissibly, mind you, create de facto zoning rules and codes that will, over time, erode the character of this neighborhood. As it relates to the parking issue here, council indicated that they will have more opportunity for spots on the property. But the fact is that the spots on the property is something that this board has been adamant in addressing and in denying in earlier applications, whereby it's been stated in essence that we don't want the city of Long Beach to turn into the city of New York or into Queens, into neighborhoods where homeowners park multiple cars all over their property and on the streets and then spill out. And if we permit that here, the next homeowner who buys next door will be allowed to do the same. And this is not to cast aspersion on the West End. I lived on off of Novada myself for many years, in Oceanfront and on the walks for many years myself. It's not to cast aspersions there, but this community is not that. And there's a reason why they didn't want to become that. And when homeowners purchased land, when they purchased homes in this neighborhood, they did so with the belief and understanding that the zoning code will be upheld so that they too may look at grass and have yards in their front and back, and that the density will not be so increased so as to turn this part of the community into the West End. So for these reasons, and again, I guess I understand now that there's been an amendment in the application regarding the side yard setbacks, to the 9 and to the 8 and 5 feet respectfully. And I know that Commissioner Creighton's not here, but if that is not taken care of, then of course I would say Commissioner Creighton has a long-standing time of disagreeing, insisting on drawing a distinction between new buildings and rebuilds, such as ones that were previously heard tonight, where decks are being granted, are being sought to be granted, or a stairway is being sought to be built onto an existing home. There is a distinction there. This is a builder. This is not a homeowner. This is somebody who's looking to come in and maximize as much as they possibly can, which they're permitted to do, but then they should be required to do so under the confines of the zoning code as it exists. I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak.
And thank you, Mr. Salatov. Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, Robin, I understand, and from what Mr. Salatov said, that there are other people who are hands raised, looking to be heard on the issue.
Yep, just elevated Sam Pinto.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good evening, Sam. Can you give us your name and address, please?
Sure. Sam Pinto, 116 East Beach Street. I thank you very much for hearing me tonight.
That's okay.
I come tonight on the call of many residents as I'm involved in the local East Home Civic. First, I want to echo the concerns of the members of the zoning board of the density, attacks to the character, the issues with converting the basement into a part of the house and then taking a new 2-family home. It's much different than having the same 2-family that's there existing. I will say that based on the limited information that I've been able to put together, I apologize, I'm not that prepared. I think that this request reeks of overdevelopment, and it will greatly undermine the community character. This is not a resident seeking hardship help. This is a developer who intends on trying to maximize the profit by undermining the character of the community. I don't really understand the curb cut situation of how they're going to be expanding, but right now the curb cut is far to the east of the entire property. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing. I'm sorry. I don't understand the whole curb cut situation where they're going to add a second curb cut for the main house. There isn't one existing right now on Google Maps. I don't see how the setbacks make much of a difference. Just to reiterate, I believe this reeks of local overdevelopment of the local area, attacks and undermines the community character of the East Home area. And also, many of the residents reached out to me saying that they were not giving sufficient notice of this hearing based on the letters that were supposed to be provided, as well as the signage in front of the house going up late. Otherwise, they would have been more prepared and greater in number. With that being said, also with the change in the actual request of the variance, I would say at least this should be pushed off to a later date. So residents can prepare and see the actual renderings of the project coming in place. But based on either project, the 60 by 40 or this 56 by 44, I would say that this should be denied in its entirety. It's an egregious overreach by a developer trying to fill his pockets by undermining the community character. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Mr. Pinto. All right, who's next, Robin?
Deborah and Montico.
Okay, the Monticos. Can we hear from them, please? Name and address for the record.
Please unmute yourself.
Oh, okay, now I'm unmuted. Okay, I'm Deborah Montico at 209 Lincoln Boulevard.
Okay. All right, tell us your opposition.
So I have spent my entire life in Long Beach. I grew up in the canals. And when we had the opportunity to move to the East Home district, it was really a wonderful thing because we are living in a place that had space, that had lawns, that had gardens. And this has been a beautiful neighborhood to live in for the past 30 years. And I am absolutely appalled by the proposal of the possibility of a two-family home being built in this space, because the houses would be jammed in together. It would really impact the character of our neighborhood in a very negative way because it would increase the density. We have beautiful space and beautiful gardens, and it would be a travesty to for our neighborhood to begin to look like the walks. So I implore the zoning board to please reject this proposal. Thank you.
Okay, can we hear from the next person, please?
Elizabeth Ulendale. Please unmute your phone.
Oh, hello. Okay, this is Elizabeth Ulendale. My address is 349 East Beach. We are the next door neighbors to the west.
Okay.
I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband, Gary. We are opposed to new construction of any kind on that property, especially a two-family home of 3 over 3. I have 3 objections. The first objection is the reduction in parking. From what I saw on the plans, the proposed curb cuts eliminate at least 2, if not 3, parking spaces on an already busy and congested two-way street. We have one of the few two-way streets in our neighborhood. It's extremely busy and dangerous. Leaving our driveway is always dangerous and challenging, especially during the summer. One of the biggest challenges is pulling safely out of our driveway with people circling around and around the block looking to park. I want to point out that the applicant's counsel was unclear and didn't seem about how many spots and curb cuts he did not mention that a driveway was going, a second curb cut would be made and a driveway would be built on the west side of the house. To me, that was clear on the plans that I saw down in the zoning board. Okay. My second objection is the environmental and aesthetic impact, which you've called it other things. Our neighborhood can't afford to sacrifice this lovely, majestic, and unique property. It's a green oasis amidst overcrowded plots with very few trees, the other homes. So the people that spoke are familiar with this property. It's beautiful. Since Superstorm Sandy, we have experienced constant basement flooding after rains due to the higher water table, as well as poor water pressure and street flooding big time on East Beach Street. All this would surely be worsened by the impact of another large home being built, which would mean removing existing grass, soil, 6 mature flowering trees, very rare for Long Beach, bushes and other plantings with their strong root systems, which, as we know, it helps to drain the water. Okay, so that would strain our area's already overburdened precious natural resources and affect the land's ability to absorb water, especially now that extreme weather and severe storms seem to be the norm due to climate change and overbuilding. So my third objection is that we fully expect nuisance, including noise and privacy issues, since the proposed driveway that we saw in the plans and nobody else mentioned, by the way, on the west side, the proposed driveway lines up exactly with our kitchen and living room windows. The planned driveway and curb cut would be right up to our property line, virtually creating an undesirable shared driveway situation. Okay, that's it from me, the Yulendals. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Who's next on the list?
The Roans, Ron Roan.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir. Name and address for the record.
Okay, so our address is 203 Lincoln Boulevard. And thank you for the board for hearing this.
They'll still.
Sorry, Mr. Collins.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you guys for hearing this, to hear our side. And, as Debbie has said, and as Liz had said, it definitely causes a density issue. And I think there's already flooding on this block. There's been a shortage of parking. Looking at the plans, even though we did not have sufficient time to prepare for this, we got the letters on Saturday. It still doesn't seem that it would solve the parking issue, but the density issue is the biggest part. And given to what Darren has said as well too, is we recently purchased this home. We are familiar with Long Beach. We're very familiar with East Home. The reason that we purchased here is that there's land. We want to have our children to grow up and be able to have this land and not, be in a house right next to each other, as it is in Queens or other parts of the city. The problem is that this is setting a dangerous precedent. And by 10 years from now, by allowing this to continue to add 2-family homes and subdivide plots, will end up being like West Home. And we did not purchase to raise our son and our family here.
I'm sorry, this is Jessica Roan. I'm gonna step in because I don't know if anyone else on the other side of the camera is upset, but we actually are, because we just purchased less than a year ago. And we specifically sought this area, not even just because, the beauty of it, but also with having a young child and being able to get out of our car and not have to worry about double parking and offloading children on the street. So we are nervous about this because Mr. Cohen quoted a bunch of the properties over here and the sizes, but what no one is quoting is how many 80 by 100, how many 80 by 40, sorry, I can't even speak. How many properties there are that you could subdivide near us that would significantly change the density here. We already deal with the overflow from the high rises over on Shore and Broadway that causes an issue. And right now, this block currently, even though everybody is reporting there's an issue, has the vacancy of our second family, has the vacancy of Hope's house, which is 2, and a vacancy of another house on the block. And we're still tight on parking. The other thing that wasn't said that Liz started to go into is this will remove 3 car spots on the block, and they're accommodating the same amount of parking as the existing house does right now. Hope's old house, which is 355 East Beach, has parking for 6. That covers everyone who lives there and guests. And now when saying that you're going to add 1 extra family, that's not the truth, because you currently have 4 bedrooms over a studio, and you want to put 3 bedrooms over 3 bedrooms. That's 6 extra bedrooms that no one can guarantee will not be occupied by adults with cars. And that's assuming everybody in these bedrooms is uncoupled. So the minimum we would get, if they're all adults, is 6 extra cars on the block. The other thing I'd like to say is, I think everybody knows the different concerns that come with parking. You know, safety. We have neighbors here who have physical therapists who come to their property. Again, if we have a bigger parking issue, we'll have that. Comes down to therapists being able to access patients here. The other thing is, Liz touched upon it, is you're going to be approximately removing 5,000 square feet of soil. That will increase flooding. We get flooding on moderate rain. That will increase flooding for us with moderate rain, and that will increase flooding if there is a storm. That's one of the biggest concerns that we have here on this block. I think the other, I'm not sure if it really weighs in on anyone. The last of the issues I'd say is that having investor properties in a community that has homeowners, it changes the community. It will create a transient feel. It's the very reason so many communities have done away with Airbnb, because there is a transient feel. This one's not going to be immediate as Airbnb, but it would be 5 or 10 years down the road. You will create a much more transient environment here. We just purchased here. Be a shame, because people who come here want to put roots here when they come with their family. And if you don't make a space for families to come and put roots down, you will lose all of the people who feed this community, who care about the community, not just looking to profit off of. You know, I respect the fact that Mr. Mayeri is a, prominent businessman, but I also have to notice the fact that he doesn't live in this community. So I can't help but think that he's going to have a bias to it. And that's all from the Roans.
Okay, thank you very much. Robin, who do you have next on the list?
Michael Flynn.
Okay, Mr. Flynn.
Yes, good evening. My address is 335 East Beach Street. So I'm a close neighbor to this new proposed construction. I've owned my home on East Beach Street for 15 years, and I share my neighbors' already stated concerns about density in the neighborhood. And it's significant that this is a two-way street, and the vehicle crowding, the challenges of parking, the challenges of pulling in and out of one's driveway, particularly in the summer. All those things are very, very real. It seems to me that the builder's attorney has misrepresented their intentions and the project a bit. And I can't help but take the desire to recategorize this significant home into a single family home as simply a matter of convenience for the builder. So while they're saying that it's in essence that it's an underoccupied home and perhaps should be a single family home, then they're clearly adding two more private homes to that same area. It's hard for me to imagine that appropriate parking could be preserved with this construction plan. Again, this particular block is always, it's very, very difficult to find a spot for anyone on the block, particularly during the summer. So I think that burden would be significant. And it's hard for me to understand how there would be provision. The builder's attorney suggested 6 off-street parking spots, but he also suggested there would be no loss of street parking. And so I think that those things are clearly impossible. So again, I'm very concerned about density in the neighborhood and preservation of our quality of life here, particularly as it would be impacted by someone who has no intention of living here. So I thank you for giving me the opportunity to share tonight.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Flynn. Who's next?
Denise Jones.
Hi, good evening, Denise. Ms. Jones, give us your name and address, please.
Please unmute yourself.
28. And I've been here since 86.
We're waiting for Ms. Jones, right?
Oh, yes. Hi, I'm here. Hello?
Hello, give us your name and address, please.
Denise Jones, 354 East Beach Street.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I live directly across the street from this house, and my concerns are with definitely parking, especially during the summer and anytime there is inclement weather. I will tell you the first year that I moved here, which is about 6-7 years ago, I was trying to clean snow off my car. I wound up falling and breaking my foot because there is a reservoir of water that exists in the street anytime there is inclement weather. So I wound up being on crutches for like 6 months. And anytime there is water in the street or ice and snow in the street, I cannot park in front of my house. And we lose about 4 or 5 parking spots in front of my house and down the block because of the water situation. The driveway.
Okay, I understand. Go ahead.
It's just impossible, especially during the summer and or whenever there is events at the Long Beach Hotel, because people will come and park on this block for those events. And we lose all that parking. So it's definitely a challenge right now for parking. And if you're going to add 2-family house, you're going to add at least 2, 4, 6, 8, maybe 10 spots. If you get a mature family with teenagers, possibly more cars on the block, that will definitely cause a problem here. So I'm definitely against it for those reasons, as well as density and transient and everything else everybody else has spoken about. Also, my husband, David Wagner, is also a member of the volunteer fire department, and getting hit in and out of the driveway to respond to calls is also a concern. So those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Shane.
Who's next?
Hello, good evening. This is Shane Begleiter of 369 East Beach Street. I thank the members of the board for their service, and it's really great what you do.
Thank you, sir.
Every month and every year for many years, because I've been around a long time.
Thank you, sir. I
My
appreciate it.
family, you're very welcome, Commissioner. My family purchased this property in the early 80s. Since that time, I have shared in the joys and sorrows of my neighbors. As the Roans have spoken, they are new neighbors. They have come here with children, and they've explained that they bought in this East Home area because it is an area of certain character and charm. And in particular, it's an area that has the basics of large front yards, side yards, and rear yards. In this time of almost 40 years in this area, I've also experienced sorrow. One of those sorrows was this dear neighbor, Hope Fisher, who owned this property 355 for over 40 years, probably 50 or more. And she continuously made improvements. And we're talking about improvements like a jacuzzi in the bathroom, new roof, and she has a metallic roof, new windows throughout the house. This house, I'm not saying it was in great condition, but it was in wonderful, marvelous condition that could have certainly been renovated and sold very easily. I've attended several major hearings involving zoning in Long Beach, such as the Hebrew Academy and the Superblock, and heard many, many city fathers, included Edward Eaton, define the rationale and existence for zoning. And it was stated over and over again that zoning exists to protect the public good, and it has a reason for it being in existence. In this particular case, in this particular area, in this C zone, the C zone has a moratorium on two-family construction since the year 2000. That moratorium exists, no C of Os, nothing, end of story, finished. Why? Because the community, through its interpretation of zoning, has determined that adding additional burdens will be harmful to the community. They'll be harmful upon the water need, and there's been great lengthy discussions about the lowering water table in the entire city of Long Beach. It will be detrimental to add an additional burden in terms of sewage, in terms of parking, in terms of you name it. That's why the moratorium exists, and also density. Now, why then does the zoning board exist? To give a variance. It exists to give a variance if there's a reason for the public good. There is no reason here for public good. It would actually be very detrimental if you granted this variance. And likewise, you do something beneficial for the owners here who have lived for a very long time and who have a need to make some modification. If there is a harm that needs to be rectified, or if there is something that could be helpful to an owner. Now, this person who purchased this, Mr. Mairi, I don't know you, nice to know you, good luck to you. But Mr. Mairi purchased this property at an estate sale at a very reduced price. There is no need to give Mr. Mairi a variance because there is no public good in doing that. I thank you very much for hearing me, and I wish you all a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Begleiter. Robin, who's next?
Hold on. Francis Assendan, please unmute yourself. Francis Assendan.
All right, at the present time, let's move on to the next person. And if she's here or she's muted, is she muted or trying to unmute herself?
Not muted.
All right, please move on to the next person and we'll come back.
Neil Montico has his hand raised. He spoke prior. It's up to the board.
Let's hear from anybody else first.
That's it. And
all right, Mr. Montico, if he wants to speak, briefly, I'll let him speak again. Go ahead.
I didn't speak. That was my wife. My name is Neil Montico. I live at 209
Hello.
Lincoln.
Give us your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Neil Montico. I live at 209 Lincoln Boulevard. And earlier you were listening to my wife, Deborah Montico, just so that there's no confusion here. Listen, I don't want to restate the points that have already been made here. All of them are solid and clear. We know why Mr. Mieri bought that house. And we know why Mr. Cohen is misrepresenting our neighborhood. To suggest that because there are a lot of two-family homes that were built a long time ago in this East Home district of Long Beach, suggests that what he's about to do, attempting to get a 3/3 in our neighborhood, something that very likely won't sell right away because he's probably going to seek the highest amount of money he possibly can for it, thereby leaving us with two rentals, like the rentals across the street from us in a house that he owns. He's rented it out to two families, two groups, I should say. And we may end up with 6 cars for that 3/3 that he's talking about. that is not what our neighborhood is like. As my wife suggested, we moved here 30 years ago specifically because this was the East Home neighborhood and because of the openness that it afforded us. As our representative said, we have homes that have property. There's grass, there's flowers. We have character. And that's exactly why we lived here. And I, just want to say to you that a year ago, we got wonderful new neighbors who've spoken tonight, Raz and Jesse. First thing they said to us is that they moved into this neighborhood because they were absolutely taken by its nature. This is not the Walks. This is not the West End. Again, not to denigrate those. There are many great reasons for living there. When we subdivide and allow someone to come in here for one simple reason, to sandbag the community and to make a lot of money. That is the reason that the zoning board exists. In fact, the character of our neighborhood is so important to the city of Long Beach that in our code, we actually have an architectural review board. And the stated goal of that review board is to protect the character of our neighborhoods. I would hope that this is a case that goes before the Architectural Review Board, because as Shane has pointed out, and as our council has pointed out, if you allow this to happen, you are going to greenlight the destruction of East Home as we know it. And that is precisely the mission that the zoning board is here to prevent. So I implore you to understand what's going on here. See between the lines. Mr. Mieri is looking to make a lot of money. We live here. This is our home. This is a neighborhood that has a civic association. This is a neighborhood that has a name. Maybe Mr. Mieri ought to go to Queens and buy properties, but you can't allow them to do this to our neighborhood. I want to thank the zoning board for hearing me. And as Shane said, I'd like to thank you for all the wonderful work you do for the community.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Montico. Now, I just want to make mention, because you probably saw this, the members of the board may have seen this from Miss Frances Ossenden, who wasn't able to speak. So I'm just going to read the message into the record because I think it's important. She lives at 364 East Olive. She lives directly behind the property. She is unable to speak right now due to mic issues, but she would like to echo the sentiments of her neighbors, and she will be emailing a hard copy of the points for the record, which obviously remains open until the next time that we vote. So, Ms. Ossenden, if you can hear me, I hope that you heard that we put your chat into the record for this evening, as you sent it to us. And we welcome your written comments. Thank you very much. I see that you've received, you've heard what we said. All right, thank you. Robin, is there anyone else?
Bernstein.
Okay, Mr. Bernstein. Okay, go ahead, please.
Mr. Bernstein, unmute yourself.
Got it. I find it very curious that the developer, knowing what the provision of the code and ordinance is with regard to the moratorium on two-family dwellings, would seek to use the zoning board as a way to get around the statute. In fact, to rezone the area in this community. And that alone is so disingenuous that the board should not be supportive of that kind of approach. And the other the points made by counsel for the developer are just not appropriate when you consider the moratorium that is in the legislation and the reasons why that moratorium was created. Not so that an individual in this position should be able to get around the moratorium. He shows no hardship whatsoever, and there's no benefit for the community. Thank you very much.
Mr. Bernstein, just give us your address again for the record. I don't think we got it.
380 East Beach.
Thank you, sir. Next.
That's it for hand raise.
So at this point, since we've heard from everybody in the audience, and as you know, Mr. Scott, Mr. Cohen, Mr. Mayer, you both know that the cases won't be voted on this evening. This case remains open for voting. If you want to submit anything else before the next meeting, certainly you are welcome to do so.
Before you close this out, Chairman, I
Go
just
ahead.
make certain rebuttal points.
All right, go ahead.
Number one, I take great umbrage and am quite insulted, whereas people would state that I have intentionally misrepresented to this board. I've been
Okay.
presenting cases here for a number of years, and I can verily state that I have never made a misrepresentation to this board.
Okay.
And the board knows, I know the board's position, and the board knows my opinion. It is not illegal to make money. Mr. Maeri presently owns 28 properties in Long Beach. I will venture to guess that that is 27 more properties than any of the people who have spoken own in Long Beach. He has been working and building properties in Long Beach since 1986. The 28 current properties he owns are rentals. He maintains them. He's providing housing for people. As to the point that council made for representing the people in opposition, subdivision K doesn't really apply here because we're not asking, technically we're not asking for a new two-family. We're taking the CO for an existing two-family and moving it to a new structure. We're not adding a new two-family. Technically, we're adding a one-family. And as of right, we would be able to subdivide and build a one-family on the subdivided 40 by 100 lot. You know, presently, as the parking exists, you can put 4 to 5 cars on the street in front of this 100-foot property, assuming that cars are roughly 20 feet in length. As the parking is proposed, you would be able to put 4 cars there, and you would be able to have 5 to 6 cars off the street. So technically, we're taking away 1 street spot, but we're net plus 4. So there's the issue of people talking about transients and these houses being packed with people unrelated. As the board is well aware, there is an anti-grouper law in Long Beach. No more than 2 unrelated people can reside within a house, and that is enforced. And I can state with conviction that I defend a number of people who are in violation of those grouper laws, and the building department fixes them, and we get those structures into compliance. As to the fears that this is now going to be rampant and turned into Rosedale or Queens, that simply is that truly is disingenuous, because this property is unlike any other property in Long Beach. In this section of Long Beach, it is the only 100 by 100 property in this neighborhood. And you know, the fears that there will be rampant subdivision requests. Are you aware that since 2013, this is the 9th subdivision request that has been made? So roughly 1 subdivision request a year since 2013 has been brought before this board. That's not rampant. And of the 8 that have previously been decided, 6 were granted. And those cases are case number 3123, 3086, 3039, 2614. Of the 2 that were denied, 2714 was denied. That was brought up on Article 78 to the state Supreme Court, and the judge found that that denial was improper. The other denial was case 3161, which I presented in September, which was denied. That was just recently denied, and my client has not decided what he's looking to do with that. So of the 8 cases that have previously been brought before this board, 7 subdivisions were approved. And some of them were exactly what we're looking to do here. Take a 2 and make it a 2 and a 1. And that's all I have to say, other than the fact that, you know, by right, my client could subdivide and build a new one.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Cohen. Robin, if there's no other items of business, I'm gonna close the meeting now.
There's just 2 extensions.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Leave this one open for voting.
Go ahead.
Hold on.
I will leave, and I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks, Mr. Myeri. Thank you. Good evening.
You too.
Yes, Scott.
Case number 2983, application of West Park Holdings Limited of 2700 Two Brothers Court, Oceanside, New York, for an extension of variance number 2983 for an addition to an existing building at 225 to 229 East Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 124, lots 14 through 16 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Who will introduce a motion on this application for an extension?
I'll introduce a moment to grab. Okay, come on.
Commissioner Alton has introduced a motion to grant the extension. Who will second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Brooks has- Action. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Reckner,
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant,
Chairman Morelli.
he's muted.
Grant,
6 months.
6 months.
Case number 3070, application of Michael Moriarty of 249 East Broadway, Long Beach, New York, for an extension of variance number 3707 to add a third apartment and a new off-street parking in the front yard of 249 East Broadway, Long Beach, New York, also known as Section 59, Block 129, Lot 62 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Who will introduce the motion on this application for an extension?
I will.
Commissioner Reckner has introduced a motion to grant. Who will second?
I'll second it.
Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Reckner,
Grant.
Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant,
Chairman Morelli.
Grant,
6 months.
6 months.
Application has been granted. That's it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving. This meeting of the zoning board, November 2020, is now closed.
Good.
Night.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Good evening, folks. Happy
Good night,
Thanksgiving.
everyone. Have a nice Thanksgiving. Be